Today we're going to finish up section 7.1 with the second day. So far we've really only used degrees as a unit of measure for circles. Today though we are going to use something called radians. So when using the unit circle, the arc length is equal to the radian measure of the angle. So very much like how when you guys took chemistry, you would sometimes measure using moles. Same thing here. So we're going to use radians, we have degrees, and we will learn how to go from a radian to a degree and from a degree to a radian. The radian though, you will see another name for it. It's called the constant of proportionality. So if it asks you for the constant of proportionality, that's just basically saying what are the radians? But you know in math they like to use different language to mean the same thing. So constant of proportionality. So the first thing we'll work on is taking the degrees and putting it into radians. And the way we do this is you do pi over 180 times the degrees. Okay, so anytime that you want to go from degrees to radians, you're going to basically multiply the degree number by pi over 180, and that'll give you the radian number. One thing to keep in mind, radians contains pi. So if you did it correctly, you should have a pi in your answer, and then we will work on converting those into decimals as well. So let's start with these few. So you're going to know you're going to radians because there's no pi on any of these. They're all degree marks. So we'll take the 30 degrees and we're going to times it times pi over 180. Probably easy just to put the 30 over 1 and then do some cross canceling. 30 and 180. 160, sorry, 6, too many zeros. So you get pi over 6. And we'll work about putting them into decimals a little later. So if you want to try part B, C, and D, pause the video and then come back and then you'll see me work it out. So 45 degrees times pi over 180. Again, put that over 1. 45 and 180 will go 4 times, so 1 and 4, giving you pi over 4. $270 times pi over 180. Again, put it over 1. Let's see, cross off the zeros, and then 27 and 18, 9, 3, and 2. So if I divide by 9, so 3 pi over 2. And then lastly, 540 degrees times pi over 180. Again, use that trick with the zeros, so you can just cancel the zeros immediately. And then 54 and 18, those are both divisible by 18. So 1, 3, so this will be 3 pi. Now we're going to go the other direction. Now we're going to take the angle and turn it into, we'll take the radians and put it into a degree. So for this one, we take 180 over pi, so just the reciprocal, times the radian. So to go from radians to degrees, you're going to take whatever that radian is that they're going to give you, multiply it by 180 over pi, and that will equal the degree. And when you do the degree, you're going to notice that there is no pi. Okay, they should cancel out. Okay, so your pi's should cancel out. If they don't, you're probably doing the wrong reciprocal. So let's show you how this works for one. So you again know these are not degrees because there's no degree marking and they all have pi. So I'm going to start with pi over 5 and I'm going to multiply it. Now remember, when you get confused, I need this pi to cancel. So if I need this pi to cancel, I must have a pi down here in the bottom so it can cross off. That means I need the 180 on top. So if you are ever confused, that's one quick and easy way to kind of remind yourself is that you do need those to cancel. So the pi's will cancel and then 5 goes into 180 36 times. So this will be 36 degrees. And please make sure you put the degrees. That's very, very important. Just like the pi is symbolic of the radians, the degrees is symbolic of degrees. So the notation. Now we will do 3 pi over 2. Again, if you want to stop and practice these 3 and then come back and see if you get the answers right, now would be a good time. I'm going to continue. 3 pi over 2 times 180 over pi. You can cancel off the pi's right off the bat. So pi's. 2 goes into 180 90 times, and then 3 times 90 will give us 270 degrees. And then 11 pi over 4 times 180 over pi. Your pi should cancel. Sorry about that. And then 4 goes into 180 45 times, and then 45 times 11 is 495 degrees. And then 7 pi over 6 times 180 over pi. You'll get lots of practice on the homework too. So pi's are gone. 6 and 180 will give you a 30, and then 7 and 30 will give you 210 degrees. So on one of the homework problems, they're going to give you something in radians. You're just going to want to make sure that you convert it into degrees so that you can do the problem. All right, there are a few tricky questions on homework, especially the last couple that I just wanted to kind of touch base on really quick. So this last example will kind of mirror what you have on homework. So a merry-go-round takes one complete rotation every 90 seconds. So that means it takes 90 seconds to go completely around the circle. Approximately how far will the ticket holder seated at a radius of 12 feet? Oh, that should say feet, not fee. So 12 feet, that's our R. And they want to know how far did they travel after 45 seconds. So one thing you're going to notice, these are not in degrees like our original word problems. We're basically trying to find the measure of the arc length. And just to remind you, measure of the arc, AB, is just going to be the measure of the arc over 360 times 2 pi r. And this was from day 1's lesson. But that's the same formula that we're going to use for this problem, but we don't have this measure. We have seconds. So we need to break this circle down and figure out 45 seconds. How much of the 90 seconds is that? So 45 divided by 90 will give you 1/2. And then to figure out how much of a circle this 1/2 is, we're going to take half times 360, and that'll tell us basically what 50% of a circle is, which is 180 degrees. On homework, the numbers are not this nice, so it won't be as easy, but the process is the same. They're going to say a certain amount of seconds, divide it by the total number for the rotation. That gives you how much of the circle you're covering, and then times that by 360 to get the actual degrees. Now that we have the degrees, now we can go ahead and use our formula. So our formula is 180 over 360 times 2 pi, and our R is 12. And then we can just work this out. So this we already said is 1/2. This will be a 24 pi. Put that over 1. This will be 1, 12. So we're getting 12 pi. Again, if you use pi in your calculator, I'm using 3.14. So if your decimal does not quite match mine, it's because I'm not using the entire value of pi. I'm just using 3.14. 37.68 is what I get, but we're going to round to the 10th spot, so make sure on homework, please round to the tenths. Okay. So for homework, round to the tenths place. 8 is bigger than 5, so we're going to bump that up. So about 37.7 feet is how far they traveled.